Another young man loses his life by the gun. That's our top story in our Barbados Today morning news update for Wednesday, December the 27th. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. Police were last night probing the shooting death of an Eden Lodge man. 21-year-old Tavon Allen was shot while at Eden Lodge, St. Michael, but died later after being rushed to hospital by private vehicle. Police say that around 7 p.m., Allen was walking through a track near his home when a man approached him and shot him multiple times before fleeing the scene. Cabinet Minister and Parliamentary Representative for St. James South, Minister Inniss, has admitted that his government has failed to properly address the rent-to-own arrangement for residents in the Haynesville housing area. Speaking at the scene of the most recent house fire in that community, on Christmas Day, Inniss blamed the government's handling of the matter for delay in legally transferring ownership to tenants who have been paying rent for the last 20 years.
Being able to say, look, I have paid rent here for the last 20 years, now I have the property, I can go to the bank and mortgage it, or my daughter or son can use it as security and get a piece of land elsewhere. Now, it's not being perfected, I must confess that. There are several matters that needed to be addressed, and perhaps in retrospect, as the government, we did not address them in the manner in which they ought to be addressed. And that's not without Michael Lashley, Dan Scott, and others having the will to do it. Several matters have arisen. One, since there are pretty much condominiums or units are joined to one another, how do you transfer ownership? Condominium Act, other things. Those matters are small, they're being addressed. Several people in Haynesville have gotten title deeds to the property. The other issue was common services, electrical services, plumbing services, and such like. And of course, the Chief Town Planning Officer's perspective on the matters.
Inniss also noted that while qualified residents in the government's housing units may no longer have to pay rent, there still remains the vexing issue of who is responsible for maintenance.
But until you have your title deeds in your hand, the issue is who really owns the property. So the intent of the state is that the tenants and the residents of Haynesville, Ferniehurst, Deacons, Civil Hill, whatever they are, will own the property. And if you die before the title deeds are transferred, the property still goes to your benefit, your estate, pretty much. In the meanwhile, the legal issue remains as to who shall be responsible for matters such as maintenance of the property, insurance, and such like. And that, I submit to you, is a little gray area there.
But the opposition Barbados Labour Party's candidate for the area, Sandra Husbands, has placed the onus squarely on the shoulders of the government to maintain the housing units. Husbands also said that to date, she has not received a response from the National Housing Corporation to a petition submitted to it on November the 9th, calling for that state entity to prioritize rewiring of the aged housing units following a second fire last October.
These residents will need legal representation, because what is a further compound to this issue is the fact that the government wants to give over these houses to residents without the electrical wiring being done, without the firewalls being sorted out, without the wells being done. How do they expect these residents to cope with that when they step out of the picture?
Meanwhile, police are continuing investigations into the circumstances surrounding that Christmas morning fire, which destroyed the home of 48-year-old St. Clair Arlene and damaged 2 other units. In other news now, the island's privately owned public service vehicles will operate under much greater scrutiny from around the middle of next year. Still concerned over the level and type of music being played on board the PSVs, the lawless behavior and ad hoc wearing of uniform, the Umbrella Alliance Owners of Public Transport has announced that a command center will be up and running by June 2018.
The command center will have 2 components. One, the first component will be monitoring of all PSV via GPS system, and also the public will get an opportunity to see where the next bus will be at that particular time. Then the second phase of the command center will see a patrol unit where the inspectors will be patrolling and actually responding to reports out there, particularly from complaints from the command center. So you have situations where these inspectors will have the authority. They will be the same inspectors who will be hired by the Transport Authority and the Ministry of Transport. But basically what we're doing is that we're calling for our own inspectors where they will be employed by us and will be part of our operational program, which we call the command center. And hopefully within now and the middle of the year, the public should feel safer where they can call into the command center, make complaints, and we have our investigative team out there go there and investigate and report back to the command center.
That was Chairman of the Alliance Owners of Public Transport, Roy Raphael.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Welcome back with news from the region now. A Christmas fireworks explosion has injured 39 people, with some in critical condition in the central Cuban town of Barbados. More in this report from Reuters.
It's an annual spectacular, the Christmas Eve Parandas Festival in the Cuban town of Remedios. But this year, for nearly 40 participants, including 6 children, it ended in near tragedy, an explosion sending them to the hospital with severe burns.
Tenemos crítico extremo 6 pacientes. Este es el grado máximo de gravedad de un paciente quemado.
But the show went on after the incident, with participants and tourists getting up close to the fireworks as they launched skywards. The festival pits 2 of the town's neighborhoods against each other, with each side competing to put on the most spectacular show. The cause of the explosion is under investigation.
And on the international scene, Britain came under threat on Christmas Day from a Russian warship which came close to the UK. We pick up the story in this Euronews report.
A British Navy warship was called into action on Christmas Day to escort a Russian vessel which was near UK waters in the North Sea. Britain has previously reported Russia poses a threat to underwater internet cables. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has warned of Russia expanding its naval operation, saying Russia's submarine activity is now at its highest level since the Cold War. Britain has been working in partnership with NATO aircraft to monitor any threat in the North Atlantic.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic day.